I want to talk about receipt management. Receipt management for small business owners can be a massive, massive time suck if you are not doing it effectively and efficiently. There are ways that you can do it within QuickBooks. There are ways where you can just store it or just scan it and just have it saved on your computer. But what I have found is that it is very hard to go back and research any questions that may come up from your bookkeeper or for yourself to say, is this a tax deduction or is this just an expense that I need to record? And what was that expense for? Was it for a job or was it just a regular cost of doing business expense? If you are doing that with throwing it in a box, or if you're just scanning it and saving it on your computer, those are good steps, but it does not lead to an effective, proactive bookkeeping system. My favorite way to do this, and I do this with myself, and this is how I develop the system for clients, is I take a picture of my receipt. If I have a physical receipt from like a business trip, or if I have a receipt that was emailed to me, I either take a picture of the receipt, the physical receipt that I have, or I take a screenshot of the receipt that I received in an email, and I upload it to my Google Drive. I can either leave that screenshot in my camera roll and then save it to a folder that automatically uploads to a Google Drive folder, or I can just save it to my Google Drive folder manually. Either way, I am making sure that that receipt lives digitally on the cloud and not in paper form for it to be lost, for the print, for the ink to be washed off, or for if, God forbid, a fire or a theft or anything like that happens. I'm covering myself. I have that taken care of. Now, how I go a step further is I have certain folders on my Google Drive backed up to Google Photos. So that way I have my photos back up. So if say like my Google Drive gets, someone accidentally deletes my Google Drive folder, and or my account gets, my Google Drive account gets hacked out, yes, they'll have access to my Google photos too. But I'm trying to pull out like wild hair examples where I want to have a backup of my cloud. So I have a backup of Google folders, but I also have a backup of everything on my on an external hard drive. So I have backups of backups, and then I also have the images on my phone still that get backed up to the cloud. So I have everything kind of backup of backup of backup. And how I'm able to easily find expenses is within the naming system that I have developed for all of my files, my digital files. If it is one of my expenses and it's a business trip, I put BSS, Be Social Solutions, and then the date and then the trip name. If it was for a client, I'll put the client name. And then there's other ways within the description that you are able to do proper identification. I can also attach a file to, or attach that image to a file and put it in that folder. So put that image in a Google Doc and then put further explanations within the Google Doc, and that all lives on the Google Drive. You can also just upload it to QuickBooks and have the receipt stay within QuickBooks as well. My personal preference is to have total control over my data. I know people want to have everything complete within QuickBooks, and I think that's great. However, are you always going to be with QuickBooks? There might come a time where you outgrow QuickBooks, or QuickBooks prices themselves out of your price range where it makes sense for you to have QuickBooks. What are you going to do with all of the receipts that you have saved within your QuickBooks account? I like to have control over my own data, where yes, if I want to attach it to a QuickBooks expense, I can't. I'm looking over here because my computer's over here. If I want to have it attached to a QuickBooks expense, I can, but I maintain that data file in my Google Drive. I maintain ownership over that. I've seen far too many times in my corporate accounting career where only having one copy, a physical copy or a data copy, bit us in the butt. And so after my first time, I was fresh out of college. I was starting my first accounts receivable role. I was 21 years old, just graduated, and the company I was working for was going through an audit. This was in 2000. And if you remember anything from those times, we did not have a lot of the technology that we have now. And there was only paper copies. And there had been a flood or something in the warehouse where the paper files were kept. And so I had to go back through and look through all of their where they did not have digital files kept on their server. So that's where we implemented the plan of keeping digital files kept on their server and also the paper files. And it progressed as as technology became more accessible, less expensive, and more prevalent. We expanded our paper trail capabilities. But I remember that because I'm just like, oh my goodness, I am 1 month out of college. I'm coming into this company and they're going through an audit. And here I am having to go through all of these paper trails, and these papers don't exist. So it was a lesson that I learned super young, super early in my accounting career, to have multiple copies. And that is what I instill in my clients. I have them upload it to the Google Drive, or they email it to themselves, where it's just an accounting at their domain email, and they can then go through and pull the actual receipt as needed. So when they're emailing it to their alias account, their accounting at whatever their domain is, they're putting in the details for the transaction. So they'll have the receipt, and in the subject line, they'll put, in my case, let's just say another business trip, South Carolina, March 2026, and the client name. And then in the breakdown, in the body of the email, they can break down any specifics that are needed for that receipt. And then of course they attach the receipt, and then you can either delete the image or upload it to the Google Drive. But either way, it lives digitally. So that way you have the paper trail, you don't have to go back, and emails are searchable. So that is a nice way. So where you can say, if you did the subject line correctly, you can say, okay, I know we went on a trip in March, and I know it was for, we went to X, Y, and Z, or we flew out of San Antonio Airport, or we flew out of BWI, whichever major airport you have. You can look through and search based off of the subject line containing any of that. So that way you at least have some search functionality within it. And then if I request that invoice or that receipt, they can easily quick and search through. Now, if they're having me do receipt management, I have them go ahead and just email the receipts with the breakdown, and then I file it accordingly within a Google Drive folder. I tend to keep all of, like I said, I'm not a fan of having it only owned within the accounting software. I'm a fan of fully owning the receipts for full management and full responsibility as the business owner. So I only file it within the Google Drive. It costs a little bit more for me to file it within QuickBooks. Again, I'm looking over here because my computer is over here, and that's why I'm going like this. My computer is right over here, so I can then also file it within QuickBooks if that's something that they want to pay me to do. What I want to caution you with is make sure you have a good data integrity system put into place, where you have two-factor authentication and you have people that you trust that are accessing this data, and that you are not just putting things in a shoebox. Please do not just put things in a shoebox and hand it over to your accountant or to your bookkeeper, because that is going to cost you more money in the end, not just in bookkeeping and cleanup fees, but also you don't know where your expenses are. You don't know where your tax deductions are. You don't know how much each client job is costing you. And if you're doing proactive bookkeeping, doing receipt management the right way is the best way to keep your costs down. If you need help with this, I offer tiny micro bookkeeping services. If it doesn't make sense to have someone charge you $500 a month, my tiny micro bookkeeping services are $300 a quarter, $100 a month, and I provide you financials at the end of every quarter. And I ask you questions here and there as I'm going through and doing your books as to what certain things need to be categorized as, where receipt management comes into play. If you need someone to do it more frequently, that's where my full service bookkeeping offer comes into play, where it's $300 to $500 a month for full on bookkeeping for you, where it's done every month. We sit down, we have a meeting, and we review everything. If I'm handling your AR, AP, it's going to cost more money. If you have me doing receipt management, it's going to cost a little bit more money too, but you're able to have a proactive approach to your finances. If you're just getting started, I go live every Monday here on my channel. So that way I'm going to do my own bookkeeping. You can join me and do your own bookkeeping during this time. We're just body doubling. I'm not answering any questions. I'm just a buddy to show up with and hold each other accountable for getting our books done. If I'm going to do my own books every week, then you should do your own books every week. You have no reason to not show up. Again, my name is Sarah Hanford. I'm the head bookkeeper here at Be Social Solutions. Make sure you subscribe. Leave a comment down below if you need any other suggestions on receipt management or just want to share how you manage your receipts. Until next time, my friend.